I already told you last time that this will be our last topics. We have the relating the structure and composition of cell membrane to its function, explaining transport mechanisms in cells, diffusion osmosis facilitated transport, active transport, and lastly, differentiating exocytosis and endocytosis. Na-encounter na ba natin to last meeting with you?
Di pa po.
No po.
Okay, no. So let us proceed now. Okay. So what is cell membrane class? Sino nga nag-raise ng hand? Pakiulit. Janine? Excuse.
Cell membrane protects the cell po, ma'am.
Okay, it is the one who protects the cell or the organelles. It serves as a barrier of protection. Next is, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the main functions of the cell membrane and its major components. Ibig sabihin, yung function niya, yung components niya, malalaman natin. And you'll be able to describe the structure and function of the membrane's phospholipid layer. So, isa-isahin natin yan, pati yung structure and function daw na phospholipid and enumerate the different types of membrane proteins. So, magkakabisado kayo dito, class, kasi sa finals natin, kasama yan. And alam natin na may time given lang ang ating school na binibigay. Pero kung ako yan, kahit overnight yan, okay lang sa akin. Pero tinitrain ng school as a STEM student that you should manage your time because in entrance exam in your college, time-bounded po kayo. Ibig sabihin, ang goal nila, hindi mo masagutan lahat kasi gipit sa oras. Okay. The main function, let us now proceed. The main function of the cell, kindly read Azel Marisol.
The cell membrane is described as a mosaic structure of constantly moving components. These components allow the membrane to serve several functions like serving as a barrier between the cytoplasm and the external environment.
Okay. Sinabi daw na it serves as a barrier between the cytoplasm and external environment. Bakit mosaic structure? Kasi kung titingnan nyo, para siyang mosaic na pinag-kumpul-kumpol or ginawang isang picture. Constantly moving components. Why? Because lahat ng organelles or any organelles that collide with it or masira, if ever, masira niya yung cell membrane, constantly babalik yun sa its original form. So, let's first identify from this picture, ano po ang cytoplasm here? Ito po ba sa ibaba o nasa itaas?
Hmm. Sa ibaba.
Then, Mark,
Yung nasa ibaba po, ma'am. Or napapaloob.
okay, what are the specific structure that you observe? Why did you say that it is the cytoplasm?
Yung parang strand po, ma'am, para siyang cytoskeleton. Tapos,
Okay, very good. Okay, tapos may dagdag ka?
yung kulay po parang tubig, ganun. Something like that.
Okay. Okay. So, for your information, class, ha? Itong external environment, ano yan? Air or water?
Air.
Paisip sila. Ano yan? Air or water?
Air.
Ay,
Water, ma'am.
Water, water, water.
Water.
paano niya nasabing water?
Kagaya, ma'am, sa human, nagko-compose tayo
Fluid,
ng
ma'am, ng katawan.
Oh. Kasi, as you can see, di ba, itong phospholipid bilayer natin, ang phospholipid, ano ang ano ang major characteristic ng heads and tails?
Hydrophilic mamanghead.
Okay, Christine, anong gusto mong sabihin?
Nasagot na po, ma'am.
Hydrophilic ang head, sabi. Anong ibig sabihin na hydrophilic ang head?
Ano po, mahilig po sa tubig. Parang love niya po ang water.
Okay, water loving. Ibig sabihin, kung water loving siya, naka-fish siya outwards, it means that the surrounded external environment is also composed of liquid. Okay, yun lang yung very explanation yan. Bakit bakit iba ang color, ma'am, dito sa picture ng cytoplasm? Kasi ang cytosol or cytoplasm is a jelly-like fluid. So, jelly-like siya, it holds the organelles in place, but the external environment also is composed of water. Hindi lang siya ganun ka-thick and jelly-like structure, just like the cytosol or the cytoplasm. Nagkakaintindihan po, class?
Opo.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes po.
Yes po.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
let's proceed to the another picture here. The main functions of the cell membrane. So, pabasa po, Robert Cabanes.
The membrane regulated the movement of the ions and exchange of substances between the extracellular fluid and the cytoplasm. Other function of the membrane include cell identification and cell-to-cell communication, a feature made possible by the individual characteristic of its components.
Okay, kita niyo dito. Bakit kaya itong itong structure dito ay hindi different dito sa kabila? Okay, later we will describe it. Bakit nagkakaroon ng tuloy-tuloy na daloy? And ito naman is kailangan niya pa ng parang nag-guard siya if ever na ipapa-in and out yung substances sa cell. So sabi nga dito, other functions daw ng membrane, meron daw identification, cell identification, ibig sabihin kailangan nila i-identify ang isang cell kung i-degrade nila, itatapon, and cell-to-cell communication, ibig sabihin, ina-identify nila kung ang isang cell ay still working for good. And of course, alam natin sa cell cycle natin, may mga checkpoints. Pag hindi na pwedeng ituloy, wag nang pilitin. A feature made possible by individual characteristics of its components. Okay. So, meron daw main components ang isang cell membrane. We have lipids, proteins, and carbohydrates. So, liprocar, para hindi nyo makalimutan. Lipids, proteins, and carbohydrates. So, ang ating structures that are present here, we have the phospholipid, the integral protein because it was embedded between the phospholipid or inside the phospholipid. We have the cholesterol, which has amphipathic molecules that attach to the tails and head of the phospholipids, and glycoprotein that is attached to the integral proteins. We have also the glycolipid in here because it was attached in the phospholipid. And lastly, we have the cytoplasm. glycoprotein kasi naka-attach siya sa integral protein, and we have the glycolipid which is attached to the phospholipid. Okay, the lipids. The lipids are organic compounds made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Si CHO. Yan. So, they are the organic compounds that composed or sila yung component ng isang lipid. They are non-soluble in water, water-driven by its non-polar covalent bonds connecting carbon and hydrogen. So the three major lipids in the cell membrane, we have the phospholipids, the cholesterol, and glycolipids. Katulad ng kanina, as what you have said a while ago, we have the hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail. Yung water-loving and water-fearing na tail natin. Next, phospholipids is the building blocks of the membrane. Hydrophilic head is made up of glycerol and phosphate. It can interact with water by forming hydrogen bonds. But hydrophilic tail is made up of fatty acid chains. So they are non-polar, which repels water. So yan po ang composition ng ating phospholipid. Chemical composition natin. So the phospholipid bilayer helps the transfer of biological signals across the membrane and creates a barrier between the cell and its external environment. So the lipids, ito another, we have the cholesterol, yung sinasabi kong amphipathic molecule in here. Tingnan niyo yung kung saan nakapara-attach ang kanilang mga buntot at ulo. Cholesterol is a steroid type of lipid found in animal cell membrane. It contains hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts. Amphipathic molecule that bond to the phospholipid hydrophobic heads and hydrophobic tails respectively. Lipids, okay. Pabasa naman po, Mr. Roby, itong ating cholesterol.
Cholesterol. Its main function is to keep the cell membrane's integrity by preventing the membrane from becoming stiff. The hydrophilic parts, hydroxyl group, the cholesterol bond between the heads of the phospholipids, thus preventing them from being too closely packed together or too far apart. Cholesterol also helps anchor molecules in the membrane and aids in facilitating cell communication to perform bodily functions.
Okay, thank you. So, alam niyo po ba ang hydroxyl group class? Have you already encountered that on your chemistry? Let us proceed to the glycolipids. Sino gusto magbasa? Okay, Janine.
Glycolipids. Lipid with a carbohydrate sugar chain attached to the phosphate group located on the extracellular side of the membrane. Acid as receptors for cell-cell communication and regulate cell growth via interactions with growth cell receptors.
Okay, thank you, Janine. So as you can see in here, the sugar chain. Ito, sugar chain kasi nga para siyang chains. And then naka-attach siya sa lipids, di ba? It acts as a receptor, para siyang antenna for cell-to-cell communication, and nire-regulate niya din yung growth ng isang cell via interactions with the cell receptors. So class, para lang siyang antenna itong glycolipids. Antenna na naka-attach sa ating phospholipid. So let's proceed to the membrane proteins. So these are proteins found in the membrane. So we have the peripheral membrane proteins and integral membrane proteins. So the one that is embedded is called integral proteins. But the one who is temporarily attached is called the peripheral proteins in the membrane that performs various functions such as cell attachment, signal receptors, and molecular transport. So, membrane proteins. Ito na, meron tayong iba't ibang membrane proteins. Pabasa naman. Sinong gustong magbasa? Okay, tawagin natin si Bethany.
Channel proteins. Proteins with openings that allow molecules to diffuse through the membrane. Carrier proteins. Proteins with binding sites that attach molecules, then push them into the cell. Enzymatic proteins. Responsible for metabolic reactions.
Okay, thank you, Bethany. Ang cute-cute ng boses ni Bethany. So, channel proteins, sabi nga daw, meron siyang openings. Openings na nag-aalaw ng molecules to diffuse through membrane. Ibig sabihin, sila yung responsible for the diffusion of molecules to the from internal to external or from external to internal. So, carrier naman, proteins with binding sites. Ibig sabihin, nagbabind mo ng isang molecule attached to them, and then, identify nila. May identification na nangyayari before they proceed or before they allow a certain molecule to enter the cell. So, meron silang binding site. Tandaan lang ha, itong isa, sila yung nagdi-diffuse ang channel. Ito naman si carrier proteins, may binding site sila. And enzymatic proteins responsible for metabolic reaction. Sige, class, ano nga ang metabolism?
Nagtutunaw.
Pagtunaw.
Yes po. Ano kaya ang metabolism? Okay, someone raised their hand. Let's see. Julie.
It is the overall energy transformation and energy use of organisms.
Okay, the overall use of energy. Yan, yun ang metabolism. So, ibig sabihin, they use enzymes. Itong proteins na yun, they use enzymes to accumulate or to use the energy. Yan. Si Julie. May kilala kang Maureen? Julie? Maureen Oko?
Wala po.
Okay. Next. Membrane proteins. Parid naman, Aaron.
Receptor proteins. Receives signal from outside of the cell, then triggers a response. Cell recognition proteins. Cells identification tags for cell-to-cell communication.
Okay. It's very simple lang to remember this. Thank you, Ira, no? Si cell recognition, nare-recognize niya nga. Kaya mayroon siyang identification. So, in-identify niya muna ang isang molecule before they proceed to exchange of materials. Ito naman, kasi exchange of materials from outside to inner environment or inner to the outside environment. Receptor proteins naman, from its word receptor, nag-receive sila ng signal from outside of the cell, then triggers a response. So, ito yung mga signals, di ba? Signals yan, meron sa outside. So, nagkaroon ng response after receiving a signal. Next, carbohydrates. Yan. Okay, Francine.
Carbohydrates are the sugar, fibers, and starches found in fruits, vegetables, and dairy products. In the cell, they are responsible in forming glycocalyx that coats and protects the cell from its external environment. They can also form distinct markers for the cell and aid in cell recognition. The most common carbohydrates in the cell membrane are glycoproteins and glycolipids.
Okay, thank you. Kita nyo kanina kung ano yung glycoproteins and glycolipids. Those are that attach in the lipids and the integral proteins. So, ano daw po nga yung nagko-coats and protects of the cell, Miss Alexi?
Cell membrane po.
Yung responsible in they have ito siya ay isang substance that coats and protects the cell from its external environment. Who wants to answer? Okay, Pauline.
Glycocalyx po.
Okay, don't forget ha, glycocalyx. Ang glycocalyx kasi para siyang super kintab niya. So, it coats and protects the cell from its external environment. Actually, nung college kami, itong glycocalyx na yan, tinignan namin yun sa under the microscope. And we see that it was very shiny, shimmering talaga siya. So, para siyang cuticle. Okay, nasana ako. May nag-message kasi. Okay, let us proceed. We have the glycoproteins and proteins with carbohydrate chains attached to them. These proteins act as a marker for the cell recognition. Okay, when you say ano yung proteins nag-act as a marker, meron tayong glycoproteins, proteins, and carbohydrate chains. Bakit markers, ma'am? Because pag may na-mark nga, ibig sabihin may identification na nangyayari. So, if we're unable to recognize a certain part of it, kailangan nila ng markers. Pag nadaanan nyo ang central dogma, the translation cannot proceed or transcription cannot proceed without a marker. So, kailangan ng marker kung saan sila mag-start and kailan sila mag-end. Yun yung parang importance ng isang marker. So, we have the summary here. Kindly read the summary, Mr. Real Emmanuel. Rale ba yan o real?
Real po.
Okay.
Phospholipids builds blocks of the membrane that forms bilayer structure and serves as the membrane barrier. Cholesterol prevents the membrane from becoming stiff, anchor molecules to the membrane, and facilitates cell communication. Glycolipids acts as receptors for cell recognition and regulate cell growth. Carbohydrate from glycocalyx that protect the cell and acts as marker for cell recognition.
Yan. Thank you. So, don't be intimidated if you, parang hindi nyo mabasa ng maayos. It's okay because it is the first time that you have encountered such words. Okay. So, ito, wait lang. Itong last. Natawag ko na ba si Richard? Ayo, o parang natawag ko na si Richard. Tama ba? Natawag na ba si Richard? O Richard, hindi ka pa pala natawag. O basahin mo na itong last natin na summary. Richard. Ayan, may nagme-message na dyan. Richard, tawag ka ni ma'am. Richard! Baka si Richard ay busy. Sige na.
Ma'am, padire-disconnect po kasi ang wifi nila mabagal po.
Okay.
Ako na lang po
Kawawa naman.
mabasa.
Sige na.
Membrane proteins integral channel transport proteins with openings that allow molecules to diffuse through the membrane. Carrier transport proteins that binds with molecules and pulls them into the cell. Ma'am, enzymatic po ang basa dyan.
Enzymatic.
Enzymatic performs metabolic reactions. Receptor acts as molecular trigger, cell recognition, cell identification, tags for cell recognition. Membrane proteins peripheral transport ions during electron transport chain and regulates cell signaling.
Signal.
Thank you po.
Okay. So yan class ha. Pag nagme-memorize kayo, kasi hindi ako magaling mag-memorize talaga. Magaling ako sa comprehension. Ang ginagawa ko, understanding. Saka ako, and may mga classmate ako na, galing-galing talaga nila mag-memorize. So, yung secret nyo, bakit nyo na-memorize yan? Sabi nila, una daw, hina-highlight daw muna yung keywords para matandaan. Halimbawa, si carrier, binds with molecule and pulls them into the cell. Okay. Parang binds with molecule, yun yung carrier nila. Tapos, pag nagkakaroon kami ng identification, keyword lang sila. Enzymatic metabolism, metabolic reactions, receptor, molecular trigger. Ganun sila So, pwede nyo gamitin key terms muna and then afterwards, una, comprehension. Wala talagang makakatalo ng comprehension. Bakit? Kahit makalimutan nyo yan, yung keyword na yan, kasi pang short-term memory lang ang keywords makalimutan nyo yan, pero ang comprehension, pang long-term memory. Pwede nyo magamit hanggang entrance exam o sa college nyo. Hindi nyo makakalimutan. So, lalo na kukuha dito ng medical field, ito ang pinaka-basic sa lahat. Ma-encounter nyo din yan sa college. And then, mas in-depth pa. Mas mahirap. Okay, nasa surface pa lang kasi tayo. So, let us proceed. Hanggang ano ba tayo? Hanggang 9, 10. Also, meron pa tayong 1 hour. Explaining transport mechanisms in cells, we have diffusion, osmosis, facilitated transport, and active transport. Yan na. So what is diffusion and osmosis? Who would like to differentiate the difference between diffusion and osmosis? Madali lang yan. Kasi na-encounter nyo na si diffusion and osmosis na kayo ay elementary. Okay, John Melvin.
Ayun, according to my knowledge po, ma'am, ang diffusion po ay to spread, tapos ang osmosis ay mabagal na pag-absorb po o pagbabago. Yun po ang alam ko.
Okay, thank you, John Melvin. So, according to John Melvin, from its word diffuse, di ba? Nag-i-spread daw siya. So, sa osmosis daw, meron daw gradual exchange of materials. Pero in-depth pa, additional. Who would like to give an additional pa? Okay, Vanian?
Osmosis is the movement of water molecules through the cell, while the diffusion is the movement of molecules such as oxygen and other particles.
Okay. So, movement, ang osmosis sa cell, ang diffusion naman sa particles. Additional. Okay. Julie?
In diffusion, random movement of particles or solute in an area, while Osmosis is the passage of molecules across a membrane where water flow through the concentration of the solute.
Okay. So, halos pareho sa previous nating description. Ang osmosis daw, nagkakaroon ng passage from the cell. Ang diffusion naman from the to the surroundings lang daw. Yun daw ang diffusion. So, let's go to the facilitated transport and active transport. What is the difference between the facilitated and active transport? Kaya nyo yan. Makakaharap din kayo ng sagot. And huwag kayong matatakot. Tayo-tayo lang to. Kung magkamali kayo ng sagot, hindi naman kayo papaluin. Kung mapapahiya kayo, makakalimutan din yan ng classmate nyo. O, Jairo.
No, ma'am. Active transport and facilitated diffusion and active transport need a concentration of occurs this pulling movement of substance. Active transport requires and expend chemical energy in form of ATP. Constant facilitated is diffusion need requires nor expend ATP. Tama, ma'am?
Pero may naintindihan ka sa binasa mo?
Wala, ma'am.
Sabi ka na nga eh. Oh, Dana! Bigay natin kay Dana. Dana! Oh, go Dana.
Ma'am, ang active transport po, nagagamit po siya ng cellular energy while ang facilitated transport hindi po.
Paulit Dana, na choppy ka. Choppy ang iyong helicopter.
Ma'am, yung active transport po, gumagamit po siya ng cellular energy while the facilitated transport hindi po.
Okay. So that is the very simplest explanation for that. So kanina hindi na intindihan ay hindi masyado naintindihan ng classmate nyo kasi nga ang nakasulat doon facilitated diffusion. 'Di ba right? Yun ba yung nabasa mo? Pero later hihimay-himayin natin para maintindihan niyo yung difference between the diffusion, osmosis, facilitated transport, and active transport. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to define membrane transport. Alam nyo na yung malalaman niya kung ano yung membrane transport. Identify structures and organelles involved during membrane transport and describe the different transport mechanisms. So, let us recall. Hindi na natin kailangan recall kasi nga na ano na natin. Basahin na lang natin ha. Each cell membrane is composed of several structures that allows it to serve various functions for the cell. Its semi-permeable feature determines what goes in and out of the cell. Ibig sabihin, ang ating plasma membrane is semi-permeable membrane. Ano nga yung semi-permeable class? Who would like to define semi-permeable? Kaya nyo yan. I-identify semi-permeable. Okay. Mr. Paborito. Ay, Patorito. I mean, sorry.
Semi-permeable po yung pinapapasok niya po ang mga substance pero hindi po lahat, pili lang.
Okay. Oh, very good. Good explanation. Napakadali, pero maintindihan nyo. Membrane transport is a collection of mechanism that regulate the passage of solutes and such as ions and small molecules through biological membranes, which are lipid bilayers that contain proteins embedded in them. So, katulad ng sinabi ng classmate nyo, pwedeng pumasok, pero dapat na-regulate. Iba na iniisip nyo. Huwag kayong mag-isip ng ganyan. Okay. Definition. Pakibasa ng definition, Miss Alexa Mata. Natawag ko na ba si Alexa? Sa solutes and concentration, pabasa, Alexa. And then, si Antoinette Quintela sa semi and extracellular fluid.
Solutes are substances in a solution.
Ano kaya pa, Alexi? Ay, ano? Sino ba yung tinawag ko? Alexa ba yun?
Naririnig.
Okay, ko naman, nagchachoppy-choppy si Alexa. Pakisalo naman, Amanda. Si Alexa, pabasa sa solute and concentration gradient.
Solutes are substances dissolved in a solution. Concentration gradient is the difference in the concentration of solutes in a solution between two regions.
Okay, next.
Semi-permeability is a characteristic of a membrane which allows passage of certain molecules while blocking others. Extracellular fluid refers to the body fluid outside of the cell.
Okay. So here, this is the simple definition that you should know, or kasi we will be using this throughout our discussion. So meron tayong concentration gradient na tinatawag, ibig sabihin ito yung meaning niya na there is a difference in the concentration of solute in a solution between two regions. Ibig sabihin, meron daw si concentration gradient, either mataas ang concentration ni sugar sa kabila and walang sugar, o less ang concentration ng sugar sa kabilang region. Okay, yun yung concentration gradient. It's either mas maalat yung isa and then yung isa ay hindi naman ganun kaalat. And semi-permeability katulad ng classmate nyo, katulad ng sinabi ng classmate nyo, allows passage of certain, ibig sabihin there are just specific molecules that allowed to be transferred from the other regions. Kasi regions na tayo dito. From kabilang regions, yung pag-pass through ng isang molecule. Solutes are substances dissolved in solution. Pag sinabi ni teacher, create a salt solution, paano kayo gagawa ng salt solution?
Using water and salt po.
Okay, very good. Using water and salt. How about when I say create a sugar solution?
Dissolve the sugar in the water.
Okay, dissolve the sugar in the water. Bakit kaya water? Water is? Bakit laging water?
Universal solvent po.
Okay, universal solvent. So that is the basic class, ha? Don't forget. Extracellular fluid refers to the, syempre, outside kasi extra sa labas. Outside of the cell. So, paki-picture to. So we have the primary transport mechanism. The first one is the passive. It doesn't require expenditure of energy. When you say expenditure, ano? Alam niyo dapat na yan. Expenditure is the expense. From the word itself, expenditure, expense of energy. Ibig sabihin, kung Tagalog ay ginagastos o kaya ginamitan ng ginastusan ng energy, expenditure of energy. Itong passive, it doesn't require at all. Ito naman si active transport, they use, ano po daw ang sinabi ng classmate nyo na energy na ginamit ni active transport?
ATP.
Cellular energy.
Okay.
Cellular po.
ATP. Very good. Yan. So, adenosine triphosphate, para lang po sila ay magkaroon ng power na magkaroon ng transport. Kailangan nila ng mag-expense ng isang energy, what we call the ATP. So the passive transport has the osmosis and diffusion. And diffusion is divided in another two components, which is the facilitated diffusion and simple diffusion. So active transport has exocytosis and endocytosis. So later, isa-isahin nyo na yan ha, hanap-hanapin nyo na. Phagocytosis, pinocytosis, and receptor-mediated. Passive transport is when substance move into or out of the cell down a concentration gradient. It drives their movement and control their direction, which requires no energy to be used. Ibig sabihin, class, di nga nila kailangan ng energy, but from into, papasok, or out of the cell, down a concentration gradient, ito yung passive transport. Huwag niyo kalimutan. So, types of it is the diffusion and osmosis. Okay. Magbigay nga kayo ng mga example ng diffusion. Mga case ng diffusion. O kaya mga experiment na na-encounter nyo recently or dati.
Bob was being diffused.
Ano po?
Pag nagtitimpla daw pong tsaa.
Okay. Very good. So, yung tea, di ba? Pag nagtitimpla ng tsaa, nagkakaroon ng diffusion. Another.
Smell of perfume.
Okay, smell of perfume. Diffusion in the air. Kanina naman diffusion in water. Another.
Opening the soda drinks bottle, ma'am.
Okay, opening the soda drink bottle. Karoon ng diffusion. Kaya nagkakaroon ng chemical reaction dun sa pag-diffuse ng carbons na meron ang isang merong nakokonti ng isang may nag-message. Okay, let's continue here. The movement of particles across the plasma membrane from a foreign region with higher concentration regions to the lower concentration regions. Ibig sabihin, katulad ng sinabi ng classmate ko sa perfume, di ba? Once na mag-spray ka, yung concentration from higher, kasi nga concentrated yung amoy ng perfume, nadi-diffuse siya sa surroundings because it has a lower concentration. Note, the plasma membrane is a selectively permeable membrane, contains molecules across the different locations and different rates across the membrane. Kuya Driggs, kipang po. Nawawala. Nandiyan yun? Buhay? Oo. Sorry. Hinanap ko yung aso. Diffusion, simple diffusion. Small and lipid-soluble molecules pass through the semi-permeable membrane through a process called simple diffusion. So, that is, ito, unang example natin. Ito yung unang example natin sa simple diffusion. Another, facilitated diffusion. Ibig sabihin, there is someone that facilitates the diffusion process. So molecules that cannot move through the membrane on their own are transported using transport proteins. So these are the transport proteins. Ano daw yung mga transport proteins na ito? We have the channel and carrier proteins. Channel proteins on the figure 2, ito, facilitated diffusion through a channel, form pores in the membrane, may sabihin, may butas daw, allows ion to pass, ito lang, may butas. Yan, pores yan. Katulad ng mukha nyo, may pores. Yan, ibig sabihin, may facilitated diffusion. Naglalagay kayo ng kung anong cream, so nagkakaroon ng pass-through doon sa inyong membrane. Yan. We have the carrier proteins. Bind with specific molecules and transport them across the plasma membrane. So, meron lang specific na molecules ang tinatanggap itong carrier proteins natin. Can you follow, class? Pungka na. Antok na.
Kaya pa po.
Kaya pa po. Okay. Next is osmosis. Okay, pakibigyan nga ako ng example ng osmosis. Junel.
Wait lang po, mama. Isip lang po.
Okay, mag-isip. Okay, kaya niyo yan. Ayan, may nakaisip na. O, Pauline.
Ano po, ma'am? Plants root absorption of water.
Okay, plants that absorbs water. Yan. Yung mga experiment ko din dati ng elementary. Yan. Sabihin natin itlog. Maraming klaseng nangyayari sa itlog. How about you, Herna? Do you have experience sa osmosis?
Wala po, ma'am.
Ay, wala. From higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay. Then, Mark?
I think, ma'am, parang katulad nung sa experiment ng chromatography. Pero, I think wala na din po kasi wala namang water concentration yung paper. Pero na-absorb pa rin po ng paper pataas yung solution.
Okay. Actually, ang ano ko doon, na-diffuse yun. Hindi yun osmosis. Nag-diffuse siya kasi from a higher concentration region, nag-diffuse siya to the lower concentration region sa chromatography nyo. Kasi ang osmosis, kailangan niya ng pass-through. Ito, nakikita nyo siya. Itong may membrane. Yan. So, ang diffusion kasi, it's either, pwede din, nag-diffuse lang siya kahit walang membrane. Diba? Katulad kanina ng samples ng mga classmates nyo sa air. So, merong nangyayaring diffusion sa ating cell, but divided pa siya into two, di ba? Simple at saka yung facilitated. So, itong hypertonic and hypotonic, who would like to describe the difference between these two? Ano kaya si hypotonic and hypertonic solution? Meron pa nga yan pangatlo isotonic. Hindi ko alam kung meron dito. Ay, wala. Meron nga si hypotonic, hypertonic, and isotonic. Oh, do you have any idea, Eliza?
Ang hypotonic solution po have more water than a cell. Ang hypotonic po have more water than a cell, while hypertonic po have less water.
Have less water. Okay. Mr. John Melvin, what do you think about the answer of your classmate? Ano naman answer mo doon?
Ang hypertonic po ay may mas mataas na osmotic pressure, tapos ang hypotonic po ay lower ang osmotic pressure.
Okay, tama naman yung mga sagot nyo. Pero let's describe the cell itself. Anong mangyayari sa isang cell pag hypertonic ang isang solution? Francine.
Pag hypertonic solution po, the cell is causes to shrink, while the hypotonic cell causes to swell.
Okay, swell. Yan ang dalawang klaseng, actually, tatlong klase dapat yan. Ano naman, isotonic, what will happen? Isotonic solution. Tama? Alam ko may isotonic solution tayo eh. Wala bang isotonic? Okay. Gyro.
A solution that has the same salt concentration as cells and blood. Yun, ma'am.
Okay, ibig sabihin, kung ano yung na outside environment at saka sa inner environment ng isang membrane, pareho lang po ang solution content nila. Ang concentration content. Ibig sabihin, there will be no shrinking and no swelling that will happen because it is in the state of equilibrium. Ano yung equilibrium? O, Ashley, ano yung equilibrium, Ashley? O, Bethany. O, Dana.
State of balance.
Okay.
Equal.
Equal. State of balance. Yun ang equilibrium. Ibig sabihin sa isotonic solution, nasa state of balance siya, equal po siya. So, pag sa hypertonic solution, ibig sabihin less yung water concentration sa loob compared sa labas. And then sa hypotonic solution naman, mas mataas yung concentration sa loob. Ang tendency nun, pumasok ang mga water sa loob ng cell. At this causes them to swell. Okay. So let's see. The process of transporting water across the membranes is osmosis. It diffuses water from areas of higher concentration, yung solutes, to the areas of lower concentration na solutes. Okay, let's go to the active transport. Okay. Active transport of individual molecules by membrane proteins against their concentration gradient, which requires expenditure of cellular energy. Yan. Pag hindi kayo halimbawa, it is the first time you've heard it, yung word, maging cautious kayo mga anak. Take down notes nyo agad yan, tapos tingnan nyo sa dictionary. Bakit? It will, yung ganyang habit nyo, magkakaroon kayo ng wide range of vocabulary. So, maintindihan nyo, and then dalagdag pa yung knowledge nyo. This is the first time that I encountered the word expenditure. So, sulat nyo sa expenditure. Yan. So, we have two types of active transport. We have the exocytosis and endocytosis. Pag sinabing exo, para siyang exit. Ito naman, endo is enter. So, sa exocytosis, cyto, kasi nasa cytoplasm tayong nakikipag-deal. So, si active transport, tapos na tayo sa passive, di ba? A process ng exocytosis, it is a process wherein the materials from the cell are secreted into the extracellular fluid. Ibig sabihin, itong si vesicle, ang gagawin niya, kukunin niya yung mga particles doon sa cell. And then, ang gagawin niya, pagkuha niya doon, ilalabas niya sa extracellular fluid. Ito naman sa endocytosis, we have three Si phagocytosis, sa pinocytosis, and receptor-mediated endocytosis. Si phagocytosis class, meron siyang engulfment. Ibig sabihin, nilulunok niya. Yan, kinakain niya, parang Pac-Man. Engulfment of large particles into the cytoplasm. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng malalaking particles. For example, sa mitochondria, tapos na, nagamit na lahat ng kapangyarihan yung mitochondria at alam natin sa energy siya, di ba? Nagkaroon ng deterioration. Ibig sabihin, malapit na siya maging toxic. Isipin na lang natin ng isang organelle, pag nasira, nabubulok din. So, hindi naman pwedeng nandun na siya sa loob ng isang cell. Bawal nga pagtabi ang bulok sa hindi nabubulok dahil pwedeng makahawa. So, ang ginawa ni phagocytosis, ahamag kang mitochondria ka, maalis ka nga dito. So, ang ginawa niya, in-engulf niya ang isang mitochondria using the vesicle and then nilabas niya ito to the ay mali pala ako, sa exocytosis pala yun. Pero ang phagocytosis, yung mga molecules na malalaki, pinapasok niya. Sa exocytosis kasi may tinatawag din kaming engulfment of large particle. Pero lahat ng particles na halimbawa, mga, ano tawag nito? Mitochondria or it's either pag hindi ito na-dissolve ng isang, ano yung organelle na dissolve ng unwanted molecules?
Lysosome.
Aba, alam-alam. Very good, Yan. So, pwede na tayo magpalong quiz. Yan. After nito, mag-quiz tayo, ha? Madali, lahat, nakalaan din naman, nag-quiz sila. So, take down notes, class. So, ang phagocytosis, ito naman, papasok lahat yan. So, ang exit papalabas. Yung example ko kanina, sa mitochondria, papalabas yun. So, hindi siya pwede dito sa phagocytosis. Pero parang yung mechanism niya, pareho din. But opposite, papasok naman ito si phagocytosis. So, kinukuha niya yung mga particles na kailangan ng isang cell. Si pinocytosis naman, kung ito large particles kay phagocytosis, sa pinocytosis, anong kinukuha niya?
Fluid.
Okay, fluid. Kaya minsan ang tawag dito, cell drinking. Ito naman si cell eating. So, later, titingnan natin kung ma-encounter natin yon. So, receptor-mediated endocytosis, ito naman, tinitingnan muna nila. Yan na naman, may receptor na naman siya na kung pwedeng kunin ang isang molecule. So, may specific molecules lang to receptor-ligand interaction. Katulad nito, binind niya muna ang isang molecule and then in-identify niya kung ito ba talaga yung molecule na kailangan ng cell. Pag hindi, nire-repel niya yon. Pag need ng isang cell, required or emergency, kailangan namin ng ganitong molecule, kukunin sila yung responsible for that, si receptor-mediated endocytosis. So, ito yung summary. Pakipicturan. So, cell orientation daw, ang exocytosis, ayan, enter or living, ang substance niya, big or small, the concentration gradient that they use is down or against. So, basta summary lang naman yan. Lagi naman tayo may summary. Okay. Let's proceed to differentiating exocytosis and endocytosis. So, eto na. We will able to define what is bulk transport. Identify the differences between endocytosis and exocytosis. And name the different types of endocytosis. Yan. Si bulk transport, ayan na yan. So it is the exchange of large molecules in the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid of the cell. So, ibig sabihin ng bulk, who would like to define what is bulk? Hindi yung transport ha, bulk lang, bulk.
Makisig.
Makisig? Okay, pwede. Ano pa?
Maramihan po.
Okay.
Soft.
Tough.
Malaki.
So, malaki, maramihan. Ibig sabihin, dito sa bulk transport natin, hindi pwedeng onti lang. Marami, malakihan. It is the exchange nga of large molecules in the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid of the cell. Ibig sabihin, in or out yan, basta malaki, it is called the bulk transport. So we have the endocytosis and exocytosis for that. So endocytosis versus exocytosis, we have the similarities and differences. So the similarities in here, ayan, pabasa natin sa mga hindi pa nag-recite. Baka naman. Okay, si Ashley.
Parehas po, ma'am, na similarities and differences.
Basahin mo muna si similarities, lahat ng similarities.
Similarities. Transport large molecules across the membranes. Use vesicles for transportation. Requires energy.
Okay, thank you. Another. Yung mga hindi pa nagre-recite. Si Christy, tapos na ba itong maka-recite and Mark Kalugdan? Oh, Mark, dito ka sa transport ng exocytosis and endocytosis.
Transport molecules into the cell. Secretes molecules from the cell.
Okay. Ano daw yung yung klase ng bulk transport that transport molecules into the cell, Ninette? Or what is the Oh, si Mark sasagot. Anong Mark? Anong sagot doon?
Endocytosis.
Okay. O, makinig kayo. May quiz tayo. Hindi ako nagbibiro. Kala nyo nagjo-joke lagi si teacher. Ayan. Next. Kindly read vesicles. Ito si Pauline.
Endocytosis. Vesicles form from cell membrane. Exocytosis. Vesicles originate from Golgi body.
Okay, Golgi body. Ibig sabihin daw, ang vesicles daw, tingnan nyo na yan, yung vesicles, kung ano yan, form from the cell membrane. So, galing mismo sa cell membrane. Ito naman, si vesicles originate from Golgi body. Natatandaan niyo yung natin, yung pinakita kong video sa inyo, kung napanood nyo, class, yung pinakauna kong discussion doon. Kung nanood kayo ha, si Golgi body, nagproproduce siya ng different vesicles. And then, itong vesicles pala na ito, ang trabaho pala niya is to engulf particles to exit the cell for engulf certain particles na pwedeng ilabas sa cell. Ito naman si vesicle ng endocytosis. Yung nakikita nyo kaninang membrane, tapos nagpo-form siya ng parang U, and then pumapasok yung mga particles doon. Ito yung ginagawa ng endocytosis. So, ano naman yung tatlong types ng endocytosis? Sophia. Ano yung different types of endocytosis? Okay, Irish.
Pinocytosis, phagocytosis, receptor-mediated.
Okay, very good. We have the receptor-mediated, phagocytosis, and pinocytosis. Yan. Ito na si vesicles class. Sa exocytosis, ibig sabihin, meron siyang mga vesicles. Galing saan nga ang galing ang vesicle ng exocytosis? Christina?
Cell membrane po.
Okay. Cell membrane ba? Tanungin natin bigay natin kay Daniel.
Sa Golgi body po.
Okay. Golgi body or Golgi apparatus. Okay lang yan. Pareho lang yun. So, galing ang ating vesicle sa Golgi body. And then, dumikit siya sa isang membrane and then niluwa niya doon. So, how about si endocytosis naman? Saan galing naman yung vesicles natin? Okay, Francine.
Cell membrane po.
Okay, so cell membrane. So, these are membranes enclosed sacs in the cytoplasm, usually used for storage and transport. So, phagocytosis is non-specific cellular eating. Ibig sabihin, ito yung kumakain. Plasma membrane forms pseudopods or false feet to trap macromolecules into vacuoles. Lysosome fuse with the vacuoles to digest the molecules. Ito naman, cellular drinking. Plasma membrane, itong sa pinocytosis natin, tubig naman siya, kaya cellular drinking. Forms invagination. Pag invagination, para siyang nagkakaroon ng parang butas, yan, invagination, to trap extracellular fluid and any solute presence. So, trapped fluid and solutes are transported into the vesicles into the cytoplasm. So, the receptor mediative is selective, namimili siya. Engulfment of particles. Uses receptor proteins as binding sites, itong receptor proteins natin, for specific external molecules. So, sinasabi dito na ang clathrin-coated vesicles transport the molecule into the cytoplasm after binding. Ang tawag dito, clathrin-coated vesicles. Kakaiba siya, no? I-compare sa ating vesicles na galing sa Golgi and mismo sa plasma membrane. It removes the clathrin coat upon fusing to an endosome for sorting macromolecules. So, exocytosis secretes molecules from the cell. It is a waste products and signaling proteins. So, Golgi body is responsible for releasing the vesicles for transportation. So, vesicles then fuses with the plasma membrane. Pagkatapos niya, is-secrete yung contents. Yan. Ito si Golgi body. Nag-create siya ng vesicle. Kinuha niya yung mga pangangailangan na kailangan ilabas. And then, pagkadikit niya kay plasma membrane, and then, dumikit na siya kay plasma membrane. And kasama na siya sa plasma membrane. For example, we have the white blood cell or what we call the macrophage. It is responsible for protecting the human body from infection by engulfing, nilulunok niya ang mga foreign microorganisms and damaged cells. Yan ang trabaho ni macrophage or the white blood cell. So, messengers of the brain, neurons store neurotransmitters, serotonin for mood regulation into vesicles. This is the summary of our discussion. Paki-read muna ang pinaka-last natin who would like sa hindi pa ano, it is your chance. Kasi babasahin mo man lang. Tapos na ba si Claire Domingo?
Alin po, Ma'am Jan?
Lahat.
Lahat po
Mm-mm.
ng teacher. Direction of transport. Molecule transported. Origin of vesicle. Energy requirement. Exocytosis. Towards the extracellular fluid. Waste materials and signaling proteins. Golgi body. Yes. Phagocytosis. Any large molecule. Plasma membrane vacuole. Endocytosis, pinocytosis. Inside the cytoplasm. Extracellular fluid with solutes. Plasma membrane, vesicle. Receptor mediated. Specific large molecules. Plasma membrane. Clathrin coated vesicle. Yes.
Kaya mo yan. Isa na lang. Yes. Ayan. So, sabi daw sa origin of vesicle natin, the difference between the exocytosis, phagocytosis, pinocytosis, and receptor-mediated. Pagdating sa exocytosis, galing sa Golgi body. Pagdating naman sa phagocytosis, sa plasma membrane ang vacuole. Vacuole. Sa endocytosis naman, plasma membrane naman, vesicle. Bakit phagocytosis is vacuole? Kasi balikan nga natin, phagocytosis. Mhm. Parang may mali. Titingnan ko na lang later. So, pag may mali dyan, i-update ko na lang kayo. Pero dito, may mali tayo dito eh. Tandaan ko ba yun? Dito ba yun? Wait lang. 1, 2, 3. Ito, tapos naman natin to last time eh. Di ba natapos na natin to? Last time?
Yes.
Okay. So, dito tayo sa... Ito yung hindi natin natapos. So, dito class, itong ano lang, kamali dyan, no? Itong carbohydrates, dapat glycoproteins and glycolipids. Tapos membrane proteins natin is channel, carrier, cell recognition receptor, and enzymatic. Meron naman yata kayong picture nito. So, nagkabaliktad tong dalawang to. So, dito, alam ko ang cell drinking is vacuole eh. Tapos, itong sa pinocytosis is cell drinking ang vacuole. Cell eating ang vesicle. So, basta dito sa receptor mediated, tama to, clathrin-coated vesicle. So, ready na? Sa quiz natin? Bigyan ko kayo 5 minutes. Mag-scan. Tapos 10:45 tayo mag-start. Ano? Ngayon na, ma'am. Ready na kami. Ready na?
Mamaya po, ma'am.
Okay, 5 minutes. Balik ako. Okay. Gawin nyo muna, punta kayo sa messenger nyo. Then send nyo sa sarili nyo yung answer nyo. Tsaka nyo isasend dito sa chat box. Para hindi kayo magkamali. Stop sharing na ako and then listen carefully to the questions. So, parang 20 items yata ang quinis ko nakaraan. Excuse me. Balaw ka na ako. Okay. Yeah, number 1, it is the okay. It is described as a mosaic structure of constantly moving components. It is described as a mosaic structure of constantly moving components. Okay. Number 2, 3, 4. What are the 3 main components of the cell membrane? What are the 3 components of cell membrane? Number 5. It is composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. They are non-soluble in water. It is composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, and are non-soluble in water.
Ma'am, paulit daw po.
It is composed of organic compounds that are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Or it is an organic compound that is made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen and are non-soluble in water due to its non-polar covalent bond. Ibig sabihin, ganun. Ayoko na, nagkamali ako dati, nasabi ko yung sagot eh. Yan. Okay, number 6. Yan. Number 6, it is a stereotype of lipids found in animal cells membrane. It is a stereotype of lipid found in animal cell membrane. Number 7, it is a molecule that bond to the phospholipid hydrophilic heads and hydrophobic tails respectively. It is a molecule that bond to the phospholipids hydrophobic heads and hydrophobic tails respectively. Number 8, it it acts as a receptor for cell communication and regulates cell growth via interaction with growth cell receptors. It acts. It is a lipid that acts as, ce- as receptor for cell communication and regulates cell growth via interaction with growth receptors. Ano ba yan? Ang gulo mo, ma'am. Okay, number 9. Ah, 9, 10. Ayan. 9 and 10. So, magbigay ng isang klasing or magbigay ng kahit ano sa 5 klasing integral membrane proteins. Hindi man naman yun, so magbigay kayo ng kahit ano sa 5.
Ma'am, 9, 10 po yan.
Opo, 9 and 10. Okay. Pagka-count ko ng 10 seconds, ipapasa na natin sa Google Chat. Okay. 10, 9.
Naisulat po.
Sinulat mo?
Opo.
Sabi ko sa chat box mo, sa messenger mo, i-send. Di ka nakikinig.
Wait lang po, update ko lang po.
Oh, bilisan mo.
Ma'am,
Ah?
Oo na po, ma'am.
pwede po paulit sa number 8?
Number 8? Okay. Number 8, ito ay isang lipid na
Ma'am, 7 po pala.
Number 7. Ito. Number 7, it is a molecule. Molecule daw siya na nagbabond sa phospholipid hydrophobic heads and hydrophobic tails. Yung molecule na yon.
Okay po, thank you po.
Okay. Ano lang naman lang, doon na yung sagot. Dadugtungan mo na lang. Okay. Pagbilang ko ng 10 seconds dun sa chat box, pakipass. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ay, bakit di nyo nasagutan yun? Kadali-dali nun. Okay, let's check. Ready na ba mag-check?
Mamalat.
Okay, Dana. Go ahead, Dana. Kaya mo yan. Matatapos mo din yan.
Hirap po pala sa laptop. Lipat lang po ako sa phone.
Copy-paste mo lang yung nilagay mo sa messenger. Okay, let's check na ha. Ano, Dana? Tapos na?
Opo.
Okay. Number 1. The correct answer there is? Janelle?
Cell membrane.
Okay. Number 2. Oh, go ahead, Christina.
Lipids.
2, 3, 4 yan eh. 2, 3, 4.
Lipids, proteins, carbohydrates po.
Okay. Number 5. Giselle?
Lipids po.
Okay. Number 6. Ashley?
Cholesterol po.
Okay. Number 7. Denmark?
Amphipathic molecule.
Okay. Sabi ko nga, it is a molecule eh. Okay. Number 8. Pauline?
Glycolipids po.
Okay. 9, 10. Ibigay mo na yung 5, 9, yung 9 and 10, Francine. Marami naman yun, 5 yun.
Channel, carrier, enzymatic receptor, and cell recognition.
Okay. Tingnan niyo yung mga sagot nyo. Ayan. Nakailan kayo? Siyempre, checkan ko yan. Pero check nyo yung sarili nyo. Tapos ilagay nyo yung score sa chat box. Yan. Susumpain ko next time, masasagutan ko na to. Ganun. Itatama ko ng lahat ng pagkakamali ko. Hindi na ako magkakamali. Yan. Sinong Christina, may tanong?
Ano po, ma'am, yung tamang spelling po ng amphipathic?
Amphipathic. O, ano po, ang spelling ng amphipathic natin is AMPHIPATHIC. Amphipathic. Ayan. Siyempre, pag wrong spelling, wrong yan. Okay. Oh, sulat na ang iyong score sa chat box. Patingin si ma'am. Uy, be honest. Kayo-kayo na lang naman yan at check ko yun ulit eh. Okay. Dahil na nakasunod sa checking. Okay. Quiz number 2. Sa lahat ng nandirito. Ayan. Quiz number 2 na tayo. Yan, may pag-asa pa naman. Pag na-zero si quiz number 1, pwede pa kay quiz number 2 makahabol. Okay, quiz number 2. Ready na sa quiz number 2?
Sige na po.
Naman. Wag ka naman ganyan. May exam pa, may midterm pa, may finals pa. Okay. Nakakaiyak naman to. Okay na. Ready na? Dali lang naman tong quiz number 2 at naiintindihan nyo naman na to. Yan. Number 1. It is a... wait. It is a substances dissolved in a solution. Punta kayo sa chat box nyo. It is a substances dissolved in a solution. Okay, number 2. It refers to the body fluid outside the cell. Yung mga madadali lang kinukuha ko para makasagot kayo. Okay, number 3. It is the movement of substances into or out of the cell down a concentration gradient which requires no energy. Okay.
Ulit daw po, ma'am.
It is the movement of substances in and out of the cell down a concentration gradient which requires no energy. Number 4. It is the movement. May question?
Ano lang po, excuse me po. Brownout daw po kila Jarilyn.
Ay. Wawa man. Yun na lang nasagot mo. Sayaan mo na. Pawi na lang sa exam. Okay. Actually, practice lang naman to. Huwag kayong mag-alala kung mababa ang score nyo ngayon. Kasi sa exam talaga kumukuha ng matataas na grade. So, kung ano yung sinabi ko ngayon, may possibility na sabihin natin 80% or 50% na mapasama yun sa exam. At least nakapag-practice na kayo kung paano magpa-exam si ma'am. Yun naman eh. Okay, number 4. Number 4 na tayo, no? It is the movement of particles across the plasma membrane from a region with higher concentration to regions with lower concentration.
Ma'am, pwede po
Upaulit. It is the movement of particles across the plasma membrane from a region with higher concentration to regions with lower concentration. Okay, number 5. It is the process of transporting water across the membranes. It is the process of transporting water across the membranes. Or it diffuses water from areas of higher water concentration to areas of lower water concentration. Number 6. It is a transport of individual molecule by membrane proteins against their concentration gradient, which requires expenditure of cellular energy.
Ma'am, paulit po.
It it trans anto. It is the transport of individual molecules by membrane proteins against their concentration gradient, which requires expenditure of cellular energy. Number 7. It is the exchange of large molecule in the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid of the cell. Excuse me. It is the exchange of large molecule in the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid of the cell. Say, one day we'll live or learn alive. Wala sa hulog. Wala na. Panira si ma'am. Okay. Number 8. It is in exocytosis, they are responsible for releasing the vesicle for transportation. In exocytosis, they are responsible for releasing the vesicles for transportation. Number 9, they are responsible for protecting human body from infection by engulfing foreign microorganisms. Number 9, they are responsible for protecting human body from infection by engulfing foreign microorganism or damaged cells. Number 10, they transports the molecule into the cytoplasm after binding. It is a vesicle, number 10, vesicle daw siya, that transports the molecule in the cytoplasm after binding.
Paulit daw, ma'am, sa 10.
Okay. Number 10, it is endocytosis. They are the vesicle that is responsible for the transport of molecule into the cytoplasm after binding. Grabe na ang ano ni ma'am. Tawag nito. Clue-cluehan. Okay. May tanong naman si Francine. Yes?
Ma'am, pwede pong paulit sa 7.
Okay. 7. 7 is, it is the exchange of large molecules in the cytoplasm and extracellular fluid of the cell. Pauline.
Ma'am, pwede pong paulit sa 8 po.
8. Mhm.
Opo.
To. 8. It is responsible for releasing the vesicles for transportation. Under exocytosis, these are okay. Let's count that 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay na? Huwag malungkot pag mababa. Mayroon pang finals. Practice lang to guys, practice. Dana.
Wala daw pong net sila Alexa Mata.
Okay lang. Sabi mo sa kanila, wag umiyak. Tinitingnan na natin kung kakayanin yung ano natin. Ano lang to, practice lang to sa finals natin. Okay. On the count of 10, submit your answers. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sagot, sagot, sagot. Okay, the answer, let us answer. Okay, marami nagkamali sa number 10. Kala ko. Ay, hindi naman pala. Ang problema tuloy ako. Bilisan na natin. Okay na. Okay. Check natin. Check. Bakit yung iba hindi nag-answer? Oh, answer nyo, answer. Ay, answer nyo. Sagot nyo. Send nyo na yung sagot nyo. Meron pa bang hindi pa nakakasend ng sagot? Oh, may mga hindi pa ba nagsasend ng sagot? Marami pang hindi nagsasend ng sagot, oh. Ilan pa to? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Let us answer. Madali lang naman siya. Number 1, anong sagot? Giselle.
Sorry.
Okay. Number 2. Aaron.
Extracellular fluid po.
Okay. Number 3. Daniel.
Passive transport.
Okay. Number 4. John Harold.
Diffusion po.
Okay. Number 5. Francine.
Osmosis po.
Okay. Number 6. Eliza.
Active transport po.
Okay. Number 7. Junelle.
Bulk transport po.
Okay. Number 8. Janine.
Golgi body.
Okay. Number 9. Alexi.
White blood cell po.
Okay. White blood cell or macrophage is correct. And number 10. Oh, bakit kayang unti lang nakasagot nito? Julian?
Receptor mediated.
Ulit, ang question sa number 10, pakita ko sa inyo sa screen para alam nyo. The question for number 10. Under endocytosis, it is a vesicle that transport the molecule in the cytoplasm after binding. Diba? Anong sagot? Anong vesicle daw yon?
Catherine coated.
Okay. Clathrin coated. Ayan. May one mistake na kayo. Sige. Check natin yung answer nyo sa chat box. So, checkan nyo muna yung sarili nyo bago checkan ni teacher. Yan. Kasi gusto ko isa-isahin yan. Pipirin ko yung answer nyo. Checkan ko. Pero, hindi naman to talagang malaki ang score nito. Parang additional po sa inyong attendance. Itong inyong mga answer. So, may panahon pa kayo mag-review mahaba-haba. Let's have your grades. O, patingin na ako ng score nyo. Check ng mga sarili. Ay, nakakatawa naman. Walang nag-3. Kala ko may 3, may 2, may 1. Okay, very good. Okay. Your grades now, does it... Ano yan, Jairo? Ang cute naman lang sinend mo. Anong score yan? 100? Ano, Jairo, ilan score mo?
Hindi ko ma'am alam mo.
Ayaw mo checkan ako ma-check ng score mo. Ano nangyari sa'yo? Wow, tataas ba ng grades nyo? Oh, bakit unti na nagsabit ng grades dito? Grade doesn't... may pagayan-ganyan na si Dana. Ano, Dana? Ayaw mo lang malaman yung grades mo. Ano yan? Self-comfort yan ng tawag dyan. Okay lang ako, okay lang ako. May classmate akong ganyan. Pag nakikita yung grades niya, kasi naman, kino-compare. Dapat din nyo compare yung sarili nyo sa classmate nyo. Compare nyo sarili nyo dun sa pinaka-grade. Kasi nga, kaya nga 100 kasi dapat yun yung maabot nyo. Tapos nakita niya tapas ng score ng mga classmate niya. Tatarangin pa, ilan ka? Ilan ka? Pag nalaman yung sagot, ay, okay lang yan. May next time pa naman. Okay lang ako. Okay lang ako. Confidential. Ayaw sabihin. Nahirapan ba kayo? Oh, yeah. My mistake is just a step. I'm trying. Oh, ayos ka din dyan pala. Sige na. Malapit na tayong mag-exam soon. And, syempre, itong last nating na-discuss, cell membrane to cell transport, yun lang ang ating isasama sa exam. And kung ano lang naman nandoon sa PowerPoint, yun lang naman din ang natin sa exam. Kamusta ang inyong mga videos? And ang inyong mga tawag nito, laboratory report. Marami pa tayong gagawin sa Q2. Self-motivation. Okay, pwede na mag-recess. Kanina pa kaya ako nagre-recess. Pwede na kayo kumain. Naka-off cam pala si ma'am. Pwede kayo kumakain habang naka-off cam nga kayo. Or before you exit class, paki-open ng sinong secretary? Naman po, paki-picturean. O, John Paul. Ayan. O, Dana, Miss Dana. Ikaw po ang mag-i-screenshot?
Opo.
Okay. Parang ang saya-saya, Dana, ng lugar niyo dyan, no? May piyestahan ba dyan?
Si mama, nagpapatugtog pong malakas.
Nagsumbong. O mama naman, nagko-concentrate daw siya. Huwag ka namang ganyan. O yan. Sige, ano tayo, mag-selfie. Mag-open ng camera. Open cameras tayo. O, tara na, picture tayo. Oh, Dala mag-ano ka lang, aga-ayos pa yung mga classmates mo nagme-makeup pa. Ayan, nagme-makeup pa si Aaron. Aaron, tama na yung pagpapakilay mo. Open cam na dyan. Ayan. O, Jairo. Jairo, wag ka na magbihis. Walang aamoy sa'yo. Buksan mo yung camera mo. Babango ka na daw. Sige, Dana, magbilang ka count. Count ka ng, up to 100 ba yan?
1, 1, 2, 3. Mama! Ay!
Ano yun, mama? Mama! Gusto ka nang magpahinga muna. Huwag ka naman makiepal. Pwede ba? Ayan. Ano, Dana? Masyado ba yun si mama mo? Mama naman. Okay na?
Okay na po.
Sige, bye-bye. Okay, out na po. Happy lunchtime.
Bye po.
Bye, ma'am.
Goodbye, ma'am.
Goodbye po.
Ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, ma'am. Thank you
Goodbye,
po.
ma'am. Thank you po.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye, ma'am. Thank you po. Eat well po.
Oo. Kayo din. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye,
ma'am.
ma'am. Bye, Ashley. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you.
Goodbye po
Bye,
mga
Dana.
friend.